Hi there, I'm Cradock and I'd like to talk you through my MARC performance model to help you achieve sustained high performance. MARC stands for MARC, and each one of these letters signifies a word, which is a very useful way to actually compile and compose your own strategy for achieving sustained high performance. So let's focus on the first word, which is the M word. So to, I suppose, trigger a question in your mind, first of all, let me ask you this. What do you think is the single biggest impact on every second of your life? The single biggest impact. Now, this could be multiple things, but I've asked that question of quite a lot of very ambitious people, successful people, and also people from all walks of life and sport. The answer to the question, I believe, is your mind. Now, before you go, yeah, I know about the mind, let me just explain to you how I see it. Because think about it for a second. Your mind allows you to listen to what I'm saying right now, and to hear it and to understand it, possibly to get your own ideas about what I'm saying. It allows you to get some actions, hopefully, out of this material. It also allows me to talk to you. It also allows and conceives of fantastic ideas. So if you think about things like the iPad and the iPhone, where do they come out of? They come out of somebody's mind. Even this camera that's recording this right now came out of somebody's mind. So amazing things can be created by the mind. But on a personal level, your mind is also responsible for your own motivation, your inspiration for other people, and also conceiving great visions for business, or even for sport, or even for your life. On the downside, your mind can also be responsible in a bad way for depression, stress, internal conflict, self-doubt. And the reality is that most people, no matter how good you are, you'll generally get tested at some point. And maybe for you right now, that's one of those areas, or maybe not. But at the end of the day, your mind is probably your most important asset because it has the single biggest impact on literally every second of your life. Yet like me, you're probably the same insofar as that I never got taught any of that in school. I was never taught how to use my mind for best results in school or university. I had to go off and learn it myself. Now maybe you're in the same boat. But actually there are some very simple strategies you can learn about your mind to make a difference straight away. Now it's funny as well because I was talking to a client recently who's the chief executive of a successful business in Ireland. And I met him 3 years ago and he was going through a very, very difficult situation. I mean, the kind of situation that most people would just not want to have. He was depressed. His business was almost gone out of business because of cash flow. His staff had pretty much lost faith in him because they realized that he just wasn't even thinking properly. And his personal life, in terms of his relationships, weren't in good shape at all because of the stress with which he was going through. And I was introduced to him through another client. And what shocked him for our work together in the first month was that, for the first month of our relationship, we didn't do anything on the business at all, which really, really shocked him. And what we focused on was getting his head right, getting his mind right, and putting it through a foundational exercise to make sure that the basics were in place and that the stress was gone. So at least then, when we focused on the business and on him, that at least it was going in. And that's a big, big problem for a lot of people these days. And it doesn't matter what level you're at, because even if you're at the highest level in business or in life, you can find where you're going to have a situation where you're chartering troubled waters. And so it's very important to actually understand your mind and what makes the difference. Now, in the context of that guy that I just mentioned to you, I asked him after 3 years working together, look, what was the thing that made the biggest difference to you? We did strategy, we did work with your team, we did work on your mind, we did work on some of your clients. What made the difference? And his answer was very straightforward. He said, it was the work we did on my mind. Now, key to that, forget about the techniques or the tools of which there's plenty. The first thing is to understand is that it's a key area of focus. And most people go, yeah, I know about my mind. Yeah, I know all that stuff. They've read a few books, they've gone to a few seminars. But the reality is that it's not a priority for them. And I'm saying now that what I found with myself and with clients is that you have to make it a priority. So right now I'm going to ask you a question, which hopefully you can convert into actions. What are 3 things you could do right now to actually improve your mindset? What are 3 things you could do right now going forward on a daily basis that you can improve your mindset? Because I believe your mindset score should be at least 8 out of 10 on average minimum. And you need to find a way to get that back up. Now, one of the simple ways of doing that, for example, is actually exercise, but also to be very focused on what you want out of life and what your focus is right now. So a key question you could ask yourself could be well, what are my goals over the next 12 months? Simple question, it's not rocket science, but again, most people don't necessarily actually even focus on that. So that's the first one, which is your mind. The second word, I suppose, is directly related, and it's very, very important because you can be a mental giant and be very, very successful in any area, particularly in business or sport, but you could be miserable. And I'm sure you probably know people like that yourself. Maybe you're one of them. So you could be fantastically mentally fit, but if you don't have this word here, then you're actually going to probably be not fulfilled and also probably not have the maximum happiness that you could have in what you're doing. And the key word here is a word that I suppose I asked an executive recently who was at a conference that I was at, and he worked with Apple, a senior guy. And I asked him, what's the one quality that you need to actually succeed in Apple? And he came back to me very, very quickly. So quickly, actually, it surprised me. And the word was a question. He said he asked that same question himself when he started. He asked it of one of the vice presidents in Cupertino, where the headquarters for Apple is in California. And the answer was awareness. So in the context of what he said, it was basically self-awareness. But what does awareness mean? Because I might say awareness, and it might mean one thing to me. What does it mean to you? Well, self-awareness, being aware of something, means that you actually have knowledge of something. You're actually more aware of something. You know, in fairness, if you think about a simple example, maybe the last time you were driving a car, you maybe on a recent journey, you actually drive a few miles, completely lost in thought, get to your destination, and then get out of the car and realize you've got no memory, no awareness of the journey you've just had, because you're actually not completely consciously aware of what's going on. Now that shows two things. One is the power of your mind, because actually you can drive somewhere and literally not be aware of it. But then the question is, what else are you not aware of? And in the context of the Apple executive, when I asked him, well, what did it mean in an Apple context? What he said was, well, to have awareness of yourself insofar as like what your strengths are. So what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And also, what are the consequences of what you're doing in the context of your own career, but also the people around you in terms of how you're impacting on them. And also the awareness of the consequences of what you're doing for the business. Because most people, what you find is, are creatures of habit. They keep doing the same things in their mind, but they're not aware of actually what they're doing. And also it's very important to have an awareness of how you think. And most people never really stop to think, well, how am I thinking? Because, and here's the thing, and this is an important bit, what science is showing us now is that people who excel in certain areas, whether it's business, sport, or even a rock star, they're showing that they all have a certain way of thinking that's very, very structured. And one of the key elements within that is they all focus on the end result of what they want. But you need to have an awareness of what way are you thinking right now? What are your habits? Are you generally more optimistic, focused on the end result you want? Or are you focused on what you don't want, which is pessimism, if you want to call it that, but also worry? But the two of them have both very different impact on how you feel and also on your performance. So the takeaway out of this is, what you're aware of, you can control. And what you can control, you can change. So the question I'm going to ask you to consider is, well, how are you going to build your awareness? And one simple way of doing that is, well, first of all, to get really good feedback and honest feedback from someone that you know, but also to periodically ask yourself a series of different questions, any sort of question about, well, how can I do better here? What are my goals over the next month? Just even consider for yourself, what are your top 3 priority goals for yourself over the coming 3 months? That's an awareness question, because most people are too busy to even stop and think about that. It sounds basic, but it's very, very important. So that's the M, the mind, and the A, the awareness of the MARC model. In the next video, which is going to come to you very shortly, we're going to go through the R and the C just to wrap off the final part and also give you some extra tools as well to actually put the model into action straight away. So I hope to see you then.